Hi there, it's Wendy Passmore. Last week I had done notes from the virtual summit on the future of Christianity. And as I listened to it, there was lots of crinkling of paper. This audio is extremely sensitive. So I'm going to try do a retake and not move the papers. So anyway, welcome, and hopefully you'll find this interesting. It was a summit that I attended, a 4-hour summit, I guess, via Zoom through the Center for Action and Contemplation. And I thought there was some very interesting takeaways that I'd like to share with you. So here are some of the notes. The church has long been obsessed with self-preservation. And from this position, it's incapable of bringing reconciliation. And in the future, there is a sense that the Christian cause will be quiet and a hidden one, praying and doing justice. And there is a call and a need to be open to the creative work of the creative spirit, alluding to often we're pretty stuck in the way we do things. And it seems that we're going to have to open ourselves up to new ways and be open to the creative spirit. Is always moving and acting in our midst. And this I really resonate with, that the Christian world will have to bear witness to its mystical heritage. So often we've been in belief systems rather than a heart experience of the living reality of Christ in our midst. And this I felt was very interesting. If Christianity came into therapy, what would its diagnosis be? And James Finley, who was the responder to this, who's a psychotherapist who also was a monk, and Thomas Merton was his spiritual director. He said if Christianity came into therapy, the diagnosis would be that it's been seduced by empire. That's its core issue, seduced by empire. And the cure is the tender-hearted love of Jesus. So there's a lot to ponder in that. I think this seduction to empire probably started when Christianity became the state religion of Rome. And from then on, it set up structures and empire-like ways of being. And we wonder, where's Jesus in the midst of all that? There needs to be safety in communities of faith where we can call out and name abuse. And again, it was reinforced that the church needs to look beyond the tenets of the faith to the mystical, beyond the belief systems, beyond our head knowledge of theology, into that mystical experience of the living Christ, that we can be comfortable in the quiet and do deep inner reflection. And perhaps there needs to be reflection on some of the alternative orthodoxy that's out there. The Franciscan movement certainly was part of that alternative orthodoxy. And what does that mean? It means that there's a different way of following Christ than perhaps what we've traditionally known, in terms of a belief that what God created is good, what God created in you and me is good. So long the church has held on to the sin theology rather than the being created in goodness, like Desmond Tutu always has said and believed. And that's been a power structure, the sin theology, rather than empowerment of all of us into who we're called to be in the world and to offer that gift to the world. So another insight that I got from this was there needs to be a return to the founders of movements. So even in the Franciscan movement, there's been a movement away from Francis's sense, for example, that we're not called to be priests, we're not called to be in this hierarchical system. We're all called to be friars, serving the poor and serving all who come to us. And now there's been a movement of, the Franciscans into the hierarchy of the church and so on, which was not what Francis had envisioned at all. And in the whole world of Christianity, maybe a return to our founder, Jesus, and to embrace and follow Jesus and Jesus's teachings, and to have a relationship, an intimate relationship in that kind of way. So that was interesting. A need to move beyond tribal consciousness, that we're all part of God's creation. We need to be authentic and kind to each other. And there was a real call that Christianity needs to recover that sense of being a contemplative faith community, where the truth of pain can come out, that we can be in our circles of sharing that are safe, that we can tell our stories, that we can pray for each other and know each other intimately and know that there's safety in the telling of the story. So that resonates, because that's my longing, is to have circles of faith and sharing, and that we're free and open to tell our stories. And I love the image from our First Nations women that just have that sense of a circle of sharing, where there's no hierarchy. We're just all there as people who have stories and experiences to share and to tell. God is always much bigger than my imagination. That's very hopeful. Perhaps a helpful image is the church being in the belly of the whale, in a dark place, and will be spewed out onto a new land. We tend to hold on rather than opening up and letting go. And the cloth is being unwoven. And the encouragement there is, don't try to patch it. Just let the unweaving happen and be open to the newness of what's possible and what's ahead. And somebody piped in and said the world cannot survive another 500 years of Christian domination. That whole sense, actually, that came from the Vatican back in the 500s, or 1500s rather, of going out and proclaiming the gospel to all the new lands that you Spanish and Portuguese and British and French were taking over, and know that all that who are there are savages that need to be converted to the Christian faith. A domination rather than a respectful sense of all people are beautiful creations of God, and bowing before that wonder of creativity in all who I meet, which is Jesus met people where they were and just loved them and honored and respected. And So that domination, that Christian domination, has been a real scourge, I think, in our history, and where we end up now. And of course, I have a heart for the Native people in Canada, and just that whole outcome has not been pretty. So that's interesting that somebody inserted that in. The world cannot survive another 500 years of Christian domination, you know. And the last thing that was said was credentials in academia are problematic. People have been disempowered. That whole sense of theologians and credentials, are the people we look to guide us, sort of, and to speak, rather than being invited to get in touch with our own inner world and our own inner wisdom and our own experiences. I love being in circles where we can all look at a gospel reading and just bring our own personal experiences into it and how it speaks to us. And the wisdom of these circles is very powerful. Rather than expecting, as we look up to the big teacher, that all of us, I think the input is helpful, but not that it disempowers us from our own experience of God, of our spiritual life, of the intimacy of being known and loved, and who we are matters, and what I'm experiencing is full of the possibility and potential of Christ. So those are some of the insights. I resonated with so much of it, and I guess feel some of us are called to really try to create these circles of safety and love and faith, where people are free to share their stories and not be told what to do, but to trust that we all have that inner path that God has called us on, and to be discerning of God's voice in the midst of it. So, I hope there was no crinkling of paper and unnecessary noise in this offering. So I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and may we all come to that place of freedom and celebration of who God's created each one of us to be. And we all have gifts to bring to the table, and that makes the fullness of community. Till next time, bye.